Hope you're well and welcome to another episode of Live Healthy Now. Today I have Onelly Hernandez with me and she's going to give us her expertise on talking about why our diets are playing a big factor in both triggering and supporting numerous autoimmune conditions. Onelly specialises in working with people who have Hashimoto's, helping them to use the power of food to treat their physical health. So this is a really interesting topic, and it's one that has unfortunately risen in how common it is because of how much our diets have changed in the Western world. So I'm really looking forward to finding out more about it and understanding how we can take action if this is something that might be affecting your health to build different healthier habits around your eating and diet. So welcome to the podcast, Onelly.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome. So let's kick off by hearing from you what your favourite healthy habit is.
Well, one of my favorite ones is starting my morning with my detox tea. So I put some, warm water, a little bit of salt, pink Himalayan salt, and then I add a little bit of apple cider vinegar, 1 tablespoon, and then 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, and with my detox tea, and then I drink that each morning on an empty stomach. So that helped me detox, from all the things that we have in there, right, from the previous day. So I like to do that, and it helps me, move my bowels too, because every day we need to do that. Sometimes some people have constipation, so that's really helpful for that. And that's my little hack for each morning.
Oh, fab. I have a hot water with lemon juice, squeezing it, and I've done that for probably well over 20 years. And it's something that I always tell people about because I feel as though it's got so many benefits, one of them being for my skin. I definitely feel as though it really helps with that. And you're right, from a digestive point of view, it's a great kickstart. I have used apple cider vinegar before, but I haven't used it with the lemon at the same time or with salt. So I'll definitely have to give that one a try. So I just want to ask you what your thoughts are on living healthy. What does it mean to you, and how does healthy living show up for you with your life?
So healthy living for me means having that balance with life, within what you're eating, your nutrition, and feeling your best, right? Having that energy and feel not tired all the time, right? So that's healthy living for me, and having that balance of like, okay, I'm eating good foods and I'm balancing my lifestyles and things for self-care and all these things that we need to do in order to be healthy.
Yeah.
So that's having that balance. It's what most important.
Yeah, and balance is definitely key, isn't it? And is that something that you work with your clients on trying to achieve in their lives?
Yes, I do. I help them, find that balance that will help them achieve their goals, their health goals, so they feel their best. Because living with Hashimoto's is not an easy task, and sometimes you have good days, and sometimes you have horrible days,
right?
Where you have no energy, you don't want to wake up, you just want to stay in bed all day and don't bother me, because you don't have the energy. Just it drains you sometimes.
Yeah. So I'd love to find out more about that, but maybe just to start, if you can give us a little bit of an explanation and understanding of what an autoimmune disease might be and how that can show up in your body.
Yes, so an autoimmune disease is when your body is attacking itself, right? And then you're constantly in in inflammation and your body is constantly fighting this autoimmune disease that you have. Like, let's say, for example, I have Hashimoto's. So when you have Hashimoto's, your body is attacking the thyroid gland until it will destroy it if you don't do the right things, right, the right diet and the medication. So other autoimmune diseases can attack other parts of your body, like your joints, and then people have joint pain, like rheumatoid arthritis, that people have, like their hands, it's hard for them, it hurts, they cannot even like hold heavy stuff because it hurts so much. So that's attacking kind of like the nerves of the, in the body. So people are experiencing so much pain. And that's what it is, the autoimmune. It's attacking. So depending the ones that you have, it will attack certain parts of your body. So that's what it is. And it's not easy living with one of those.
Yeah, my daughter has celiac disease, which is an autoimmune disease.
Yes.
Which mistakenly a lot of people think is an allergy, but it's not. It's very much a disease. And as you say, the body attacks itself because it sees gluten, if it's absorbed into the gut, as something alien and that it needs to fight back against. And yeah, someone who has undiagnosed celiac disease can have a lot of different issues there. So I'm really interested to understand more about the role that food plays, because I think something that took me a long time to get my head around was how someone has the genes to have one of these autoimmune diseases, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to develop it. And I think that's quite a difficult thought and thing to get your head around, isn't it? So yeah, how can it be that someone could, not have it, and then because of their diet and lifestyle, that autoimmune disease is triggered, and that's it, they then have it?
Yeah, so some people you can get autoimmune diseases it can be in your genes, it runs in the family, so you might develop it. And then to environmental factors, the products that we use, cleaning products, the water we drink, all of those things influence into that, in the environmental toxins, all the pollens and some of the foods that we eat. Sometimes depending on each people's culture, like for me, example, I'm from the Dominican Republic, so we eat a lot of rice and beans and the meat and a lot of root vegetables. And that then can influence into me developing the autoimmune disease that I developed, because, it's the diet that I was having. I was eating a lot of, the standard American diet, a lot of junk food, fried food, a lot of heavy sugary stuff.
Right.
And my body was inflamed, like overweight and inflammation throughout my body, and struggling with constipation, low energy, mood swings, and all these things that can contribute because of the foods that you're eating. And you just don't think it's the food that you're eating. And I'm like, okay, something it's connecting here, right? And once I figure out it's the food that I was eating that, and the stress and the emotional and all of these things that contribute to developing one autoimmune disease. And then so then once I figure out the food, I started cutting out some of the things that I shouldn't be eating, so I can at least manage and reduce some of the symptoms that I was experiencing. And that worked. So I said, like, okay, I need to keep going because it's working, and did more digging and more trainings and study more and read a bunch of books. And now I know what works for my body and what doesn't work for my body. But it took me a while to get here. It's not going to happen overnight. So a lot of people think that, like, oh, I'm just going to do the keto diet or whatever, and then just take this pill and I'll be fine. And that doesn't work that way. There's a lot of things that we need to do in order to be living healthy and feeling our best.
Mm-hmm. So with yourself and Hashimoto's, what were the main symptoms of that and how did it make you feel?
So the main symptoms that I was experiencing was inability to lose weight. I was constantly tired, low sex drive, mood swings. So I was like maybe happy one day and angry the other day. And I was snapping at my kids, at my husband, and I wasn't myself. Your hair is falling out. Your nails are, brittle. They break easily. And your cold intolerance, you're like always cold when people are like normal, like, what are you talking about? It's not cold in here. And I'm always cold. So those were the symptoms that I was experiencing. And talking to my doctor, like normally here in the US, they only test for TSH, the thyroid stimulating hormone. And that alone, it's not going to tell you if you have an autoimmune disease, like Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism, because we need to check the antibodies, see if they are elevated, because sometimes TSH can be within the normal ranges that doctors call it. And mine was within the normal ranges. And then once they test for the antibodies, that's when they say, oh my God, yeah, you have Hashimoto's. They are way up high. They're not supposed to be that high. So doing the diet and lifestyle changes and doing more self-care, giving myself more, time to do the things that I need to do in order to get better. Those are the key things that I needed to do. And that helped me get where I am. But it's you got to fight with the doctors because they don't do the full thyroid panel with all the labs that you need to get done in order to get diagnosed properly.
And is that the only way to really be diagnosed with the tests like that?
Yes, with Hashimoto's is with blood test, with the, a full thyroid panel, TSH, free T3, free T4, total T3, total T4, and then the thyroid antibodies. Or it depending in the person too, because some people will have kind of like a thyroid nodules or cancer. So they do a thyroid ultrasound, and then that's when they can figure out, your thyroid's bigger than normal and stuff like that. So those are the ways that.
There's a lot of symptoms there, isn't there, that crossover with many other things. Some of those ones that you listed could be part of just being depressed, couldn't they? Or suffering from chronic stress.
Yes.
So many
anxiety.
different conditions.
Yeah. And doctors, when I was trying to get my diagnosis, they said like, oh, it's the normal part of being a mom. You're stressed. We're in the pandemic because I got diagnosed in 2020 that summer. And they were like, oh yeah, you're tired. The kids are home all the time and you're just a mom and whatnot. I'm like, no, something is off. So it's sometimes they think it's just you're depressed, you're having anxiety. It might be your vitamin D might be low. That's why you're having low energy and you're always tired all the time. Or your iron is low. And then when you're having kind of like anemia, those are some of the symptoms. So that's why it's kind of like tricky for doctors to pinpoint and say like, maybe it is Hashimoto's, but it's really, nowadays it's so normal to, a lot of women are developing Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism, and 90% of women who have hypothyroidism, the hypothyroidism was caused by Hashimoto's.
Right.
So they need to check their antibodies because they might be being just diagnosed with hypothyroidism, but then if they didn't check the thyroid antibodies, they're not going to know they have Hashimoto's. So that's why it's good, important to ask for the full thyroid panel.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Then if you are feeling any of those symptoms, especially if they've been hanging around for some time. So with the diet then, you mentioned that, with your diet, you're eating a lot of junk food, a lot of sweet food, a lot of rice and beans. So why is it that those kinds of foods can trigger diseases like this?
It's because some of these foods are they are inflammatory, and we think they're healthy and all these things. Is because the way they produce these foods these days, they put a lot of chemicals. It's genetically modified. Here in the US, much of the crops there don't grow the same way that they used to grow before. So everything, we're not eating the same foods that our ancestors were eating before. So that's why it contributes to all of this. And they are triggering because when your body is eating, let's say, gluten, bread, and pasta, those your body thinks it's invader, and then it will start attacking because the gluten molecule, it's similar to the one for the thyroid, I think it is, and then the body confuses that, and then it will start attacking both of them. Let's say I eat a piece of bread, so my body will start attacking that gluten molecule, and then because it's so similar to my thyroid one, it will start attacking my thyroid too. So I'm like, okay, no wonder I feel miserable.
Yeah.
So, and then some people experience, because of the inflammation and all of this stuff, they have some digestive issues with feeling bloated, constipated. Some people have acne because they're eating too much sugary stuff, and all of that is not that good for us.
Yeah, so even if it doesn't lead to an autoimmune disease or condition, I know that inflammation is becoming a huge issue, isn't it? And it's not just something that results in gut problems. There can be inflammation right through your body, in your brain as well, which both brain and gut inflammatory conditions are on the rise, and they really are impacting people's health. And, I'm not an expert in it and can't reel off any stats, but I do know that the big cause of it is our lifestyle. It is the foods that we are putting into our body. And there's a lot more awareness being raised now about the amount of ultra high processed foods, isn't there, and the damage that they do. Not just the damage they do, the fact that they're produced from the off to be very addictive as well. They hook people in, which people don't realise, and that was news to me when I started this work last year, because I had no idea that manufacturers were putting stuff into the food. I thought the packaging and the advertising was done in a way to psychologically hook you in, but not the food itself. And that's quite scary, isn't it, to think for some people they have a very high percentage of their diet made up of food like that. So over time, I guess that's where the damage is done, isn't it?
Yes.
It's just, even if it's small amounts, if you are regularly eating that way, it's potentially going to cause long-lasting damage.
Yes, and not just autoimmune disease. Some people, if you don't have it in your genes, maybe it might not happen, but you might develop other stuff, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, depression, anxiety, all of these things, because all that food is causing so much inflammation in your body that your body's like, give me a break. I need a break. It's too much damage into my body now. So that's why we have all of these symptoms, and then we can develop other diseases too. So food is like almost 100% of what our body experience. So like if you're eating too much junk food, you're going to be feeling miserable. You're going to be tired, moody, depressed, and all of these things because of all of the additive they add into the foods and all of the sugar stuff. And then all these things, now they're saying like, oh, let's take, now fat is bad for you, so now let's make fat-free food. And to compensate all that fat they're taking out of these foods, the food, they're going to add sugar, so it tastes good, because it's going to taste horrible without the fat. And if it's fat that it's from natural sources, like, you're eating the fat that got from the bacon, That's natural fat that you can eat and cook with it, and it's not bad. You're not gonna get high cholesterol from that. And then like olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oils, those are healthy fats that we can eat, and it will not make you sick, you know.
Yeah.
So it's all of these things that the food companies are doing, and then a lot of people don't know about this, and that's why we have the diseases that we have now.
Yeah. So in your story, you've used food to heal you, and you're in a really good place now, aren't you? So how
Yeah.
can you use food? Like, what's that change like, and how easy is it to implement the change when you have been someone that hasn't had a very balanced diet before?
Yeah, it's a little tricky to change from the standard American diet to eating healthier and starting figuring out which foods that you need to eat and whatnot. So what I did, I followed the autoimmune protocol, the AIP diet. That's a protocol that you can do for 90 days tops. It has three phases: the elimination phase, that you can do it up from 30 to 90 days, depending on how you're feeling. And then after that period, you do the reintroduction phase. That's where you start reintroducing some of the foods that you eliminated and see how your body's reacting. So you can figure out, okay, if I eat this, I know I feel this way, so I'm not going to eat this because I know it makes me feel sick. And then it gives your body a break too after you do that elimination phase and start reintroducing. And then that last phase is the maintenance phase. That's when you finally figure out which foods you can tolerate, your body tolerates, and then you craft your diet from there. And that's what I help all my clients when they come to me, because that's what I did. And I know it works because it worked with me. And I know it works with most of my clients that have followed through that. And they've seen a pretty great, symptoms, reduction, because they're like in so much pain, joint pain and all of that. It went away after they followed that protocol with my help and guidance, because I got AIP certified coach, because it's like, you need to know what you're doing, because sometimes there are some roadblocks that you will find that way. People can find ways to do it on their own, but it's once you hit a roadblock, you need an expert to help you, guide you through that and help you figure out what works for you and what doesn't. And that's where I come in and help people with that. And that protocol is excellent. It's been scientifically proven to help people with autoimmune diseases, not just with Hashimoto's. And it's great because once you finish that, elimination phase, reintroduction phase, now you know what foods to stay away from.
Yeah.
And that's what I do, because you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't take things out and then start reintroducing again slowly and see what works and what doesn't, that's when you start seeing like, okay, I need to stay away from that. I need to stay away from this. And this works, this doesn't. And that way you craft your own diet. But it's not easy. It is challenging at the beginning because you're giving up so much things that you are addicted to. Like me, I was so addicted to sweets, fried food and all of that. And like, oh my God. But now I'm eating healthier. My skin got clearer because I was experiencing some acne issues too in my 30s. And I'm like, what's wrong with me, right? My hormones were like crazy because I was eating all that junk stuff. And now that I eating healthier and supporting my gut health, because that's another thing too. You need to be eating some fermented food and stuff like that to help you with your gut, because most people, they have done research that a lot of people that are diagnosed with autoimmune diseases, they have leaky gut. That means their gut is not working the way it's supposed to, and it's permeable. So that means things are leaking out of their gut, or things are coming in that they're not supposed to come in. And that's why you have all of these symptoms and all these things, or digestive issues too. So that's why it's important to follow this protocol, to the T, and see how better you will feel after it, because now I feel much better.
And I can imagine that the impact, both when you were in a bad place, but then now when you're in a much better place, is on so many things in your overall health and well-being. Because even, if you're suffering from skin problems and you're just tired, that impacts like your overall happiness, doesn't it? And it tends to make you a bit fed up and not want to move about. So then when you're not moving about as much, you're probably not sleeping as well. And then you get more stressed. Yes. And it's just that cycle, isn't it, of how everything is so interconnected in our bodies and minds. And I talk a lot about that in Life Now coaching. So if someone's listening and, they've got some of these symptoms, obviously the advice is that you really do need to get it checked out with your doctor or a nurse. You need to get some professional support to have a diagnosis. But if you aren't diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, and say you are someone who's struggling with things like weight loss and some of the symptoms you gave, and they think, it probably is linked to my diet because I know it's not the best diet, and so I do need to improve it. What would you say, is a good place to start? So without going into the formal 90-day protocol, like give us an example of some of the healthy meals or swaps, that you can do from the processed and unhealthy food to things that are going to serve your gut much better.
Yeah. So to start with, if you don't want to do the whole protocol, because I know that's a little bit intimidating for beginners. So it's good to start with just removing gluten and dairy from your diet to begin with. And you can have some healthy foods, like let's say for breakfast, you can have some eggs and what else you can have, like some eggs and bacon, right? And some cup of tea. That can be a good breakfast, and it has healthy fats, so it will keep you balanced and not hungry until your next meal.
Yeah, it's got a lot of protein, hasn't it?
Yeah, protein and healthy fats. So then for lunch, you can have kind of like something that it's filling, some chicken or salmon in a salad with some dressing that it's like vinegar, can be like balsamic vinegar with some olive oil and a little bit of salt and pepper. That can be a great salad to eat for lunch, and it will keep you full. And then for dinner, it can be something like your piece of steak and some sweet potatoes and some broccoli, cauliflower, something like that. And that can look like a nice, good dinner. And maybe drink lots of water. Drink lots of water. And juices, not too much, because they might be too sweet unless you make it yourself. And then like maybe some homemade lemonade with some sugar substitutes like monk fruit or stevia. Those work for sweeten your drinks without raising your blood sugar. So that's good, because we need to keep a balance with the blood sugars too.
So why do you think so many people struggle to have a more balanced, healthy diet?
I think most people is because they don't know. They don't know a lot about all these things, and then life gets in the way. Because when I was in that place eating lots of junk foods, is because I was so busy and I couldn't make the time. I made all that excuse, make the time to cook healthier and maybe read some book or something and look do a little bit more research about the foods that I'm putting in my body. And that's what I think it's why most people don't eat healthy or do healthy living because of that. It's they let life get in their way, and they put that as an excuse to not do the things that they need to do. Because
Yeah.
that was me. That's why
Yeah.
I do it. I'd say that.
And yeah, I hear that as well. It's like the busyness of life, isn't it? It's just, well, this is the way it is. I haven't got time. It's going to take too much effort. So if someone did want to make a change, what would be one simple step that you could tell them to take in the next 48 hours, just to do that one little thing that starts the ball rolling to help build a healthier way of eating?
For them, one step they can do is drink a glass of water with 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar before each meal. So to help with digestion, so to get help with some moving things there. If they can start adding that before each meal, that will be one step ahead of what they were before, because that will help them with some mobility, maybe help them with a little bit of constipation, and don't raise their blood sugar too high, depending on what they're eating. But
Yeah.
if they start with just that and then just keep eating what they're eating, that will help them to feel a little bit more better.
Yeah, that's a good tip. And apple cider vinegar, if you haven't used it already, it is quite cheap to buy. I know I've bought mine on Amazon before and had it delivered, and you do keep it in the fridge once it's open, but you can buy them in the supermarkets here in the UK and I guess in the US as well. I think
Yes.
I'll try that as well, because it has got a very nice taste. If you don't like vinegar, don't worry about it being too vinegary in the typical sense. It has got like that almost kind of soft fruity edge to it, I think, hasn't it? Yeah, and I use it in salad dressings a lot, so I would use it with the olive oil, some fresh lemon juice. I use tahini as well, like the sesame paste.
Yes.
And just mix a little bit of that in, because that's really good for you as well from a protein point of view, and with it being the seeds as well, it's a good source of fibre. So yeah, I like that tip. So just before we go, I've got a few little this or that to ask you about for your preferred habits. So just a bit of fun to find out a bit more about you. So would you prefer walking to running?
I like walking better than running.
Yeah. And I think I know the answer to this one: water or juice?
Water.
Yeah. Meditating or journaling?
I like to do a combination of both, but I think my favorite one of both of them will be the journaling.
Oh,
I like to get all my thoughts out of my head and put it in paper.
And do you write it down as well on paper?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
The journaling is on paper. I love to buy these little notebooks with beautiful quotes and all of these, and I love that. So that's where I write.
Brilliant. And then a morning or a bedtime routine?
I do both, but my favorite one is my morning routine.
And then
It
finally,
sets me up for the day.
Great. And then time on your own or time with others?
I like both, but I like to spend time with others too, like with my family, with my kids.
Yeah, that's the big one to boost your well-being, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant. So just to let everyone know, then where can they connect with you, Onelly?
Yes, everyone can find me on Instagram, and my handle is at Onelly Eats, and they can find me there. I have a 5-day Hashimoto's meal plan on my link in bio, so they can download that for free and get started with eating some great food and feel their best. And they can go in there and ask me any questions they have, any doubts or anything. I'm there to help. Just a DM away on Instagram where I'm more hang out the most. And then the same handle, I have it on Facebook at Onelly Eats, and on TikTok too. They can find me there.
Oh, brilliant. And I'll pop all of the links in the show notes along with the one for the free guide as well for the 5 recipes, because that could be really useful. I think just to give people a little indication of what they might look like, you know, so that they can get an idea of how easy it actually is. Because right at the start, you know, when you were talking about your change and said that it can be really daunting when you're just so used to the food you've eaten, and a lot of the time that food is convenient. So when you think about having to change your diet and cook from fresh ingredients, it can seem really overwhelming and like it's a massive time commitment, doesn't it? So yeah, have a look, because I certainly know from, you know, I've always had a pretty decent diet, but around 6-7 years ago, I really did change my diet. And it's just amazing how many things you can cook from scratch in 10-15 minutes. It seems hard, the thought of it, but it isn't. So yeah, I think that guide's something which might be of great value. So thank you so much for joining me today. And it's a really interesting topic, and I hope that it's one that has helped you if you are listening, even if it's not because you think you've got potentially one of the autoimmune conditions, but just to respect your body and what food does and the role it plays in your overall health, and just be considerate of that and be more mindful about what you're putting in your body and what you use it for.
Yes.
So thanks, Onelly.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome.